Welcome to the Best We Could Be podcast, the space for thought-provoking, fun, and inspiring conversations through millennial voices. I'm your co-host, Eliora.
And I'm your co-host, Danielle. We're sharing and learning about what helps us grow in clarity, skills, and relationships.
We're finding our way to live the best life we can.
And we want you to join us on the journey. So let's get started. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for episode 3 of the Best We Can Be podcast, Adult Friendships, the Good and the Bad. So how are you feeling today, Aliora?
Yes. I'm feeling pretty good. The weather is really beautiful outside. Overall, this is like the previous week was pretty good, and this weekend has been, I just feel like good about life overall, and especially us doing this podcast, so can't complain.
Yeah, I was going to ask, just to start us off, like as far as on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being feeling kind of crappy, to 10 feeling hopeful, joyful, like where would you say you're at on that scale today?
Today, I feel like an 8. I feel like I even say a 9, but I'm going to say 8. Like, I don't feel that like upbeat, but I feel pretty positive.
I would say that's pretty good, pretty high. For me, I would say I'm probably like around a 7. I don't know why it's not like a higher number. I know I'm feeling better. It's a good, beautiful day today. I have nothing to complain about. But I don't know. I guess there's certain things that I feel, and some days you just wake up in certain moods for absolutely no reason. But I'm glad that we're here. I'm glad that we're here recording the episode and talking about a very, very important subject to us, which is friendships, in particular adult friendships. And the reason why we decided to dive into this topic and why we thought it was important is because, especially in the last, 2-3 years, especially after the pandemic, I think a lot of us started to recognize how our social circles ebb and flow. We got to probably reconnect with people that we haven't spoken to in a while, especially during the pandemic when we were all in our houses and doing a lot of Zooms and virtual game nights, just any type of way to connect with people. And also, I know for me personally, in the last maybe 2 years, I've really just kind of evaluated all of my friendships, the current ones and the past ones and ones that have come and gone, just really evaluating like how much I'm giving into the friendship and how much the person's giving into the friendship. Also kind of analyzing my expectations of that friendship, because I've come to know through experience that you have to set expectations with certain friends. Not saying that, there are friends out there that can be everything towards you, that can fulfill whatever your friendship expectations are. But there are certain friends that you have to put in a box and, have certain expectations with in order for you to feel satisfied and fulfilled in the friendship. But I will say also that friendship, it's funny that we're talking about friendship today, because the subject of friendship has actually been pretty heavy on my heart lately. Thinking about reconnecting with some of my old friends, like people that I grew up with from 6 years old. And also just thinking about our mutual friend that we recently bumped into on our girls trip randomly in South Carolina was definitely a God ordained reconnection. So just really evaluating, analyzing my friendship dynamics. So we're going to dive into today our own experiences of, friendship, what kind of friends we are, how we want to improve in our own friendships, and also going over the types of friends that you might have in your social circle that you don't even realize you have.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. We need relationships. Of course, we're automatically born into relationships with our family, but we don't get to choose our family. And there's so much content out there about romantic relationships and how to navigate that, but we really do need more conversations about friendships, and they've really impacted our lives, personally, in very valuable ways. So we just want to, share and learn something together. So starting off, the official definition, one of them, this is from dictionary.com, of what a friend is, and it's two definitions that it gives is a person attached to another by feelings of affection or personal regard, or a person who is on good terms with another, a person who is not hostile. So those definitely feel like dry definitions, like very bad. I mean, they're not wrong, but we could definitely elaborate on what we think that is. I feel like as my thoughts have developed about friends and, wanting to build that level of connection and intimacy, in my mind, ideally, it should feel like, if you have a good relationship with your siblings and your cousins, the biological ones, it should feel similar to that. Like they're like family, except, as mentioned earlier, these are people that we intentionally choose to be in our lives. And I feel like a friend is somebody who is able to grow with you, on a very personal level. They should be able to grow with you across different areas of your life. I do feel like if you're finding a person is just you're just able to connect and grow together in one area, I feel like that's not enough. I feel like it should be multiple, more than two. A friend should be somebody that you trust. Like there's a reciprocal sharing of yourselves with each other, being able to lean on each other, being able to advise each other. There's somebody you should be able to not just share the things that make you happy, but also the things that make you really sad, the things about you that don't put you in a good light, and they're going to help you to become a better person. And all of that is encompassed in them, like being your peer. So it's different from somebody who's a mentor who you normally look at as more above you in a certain way, like not in a demeaning way, but somebody that you're really looking up to. The way that you look to your friends, it's on a closer level with each other. That's my thoughts off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. For me, what comes to mind as far as my definition of a friend is being able to be around someone where you can be your full authentic self and not feel like you have to put a facade up in any type of way, or that you can dive deep into conversation with, like it's natural. You don't feel like you have to hold anything back about yourself. Someone, as you said, you can fully trust. Also someone that I'm reading a book currently, and basically the author, the character was talking about one of her girlfriends, and the way I'm trying to remember it, I'm probably going to mess it up verbatim, but she basically was saying that she feels valued when she's around her friend, like she feels seen when she's around her friend. And I think that's a quality of a good friend, when they also put in the work to continue to keep the friendship going. And of course, life can be life. So there are barriers sometimes. You might not live in the same state. You might be in different stages of life, such as, marriage, kids, different things can definitely cause your friendship to, drift apart or create a distance, et cetera, et cetera. But I personally believe, and this might be controversial, but I personally believe that I don't believe in the excuse of being busy. I don't believe in people saying, oh, I'm sorry, I've been busy doing X, Y, and Z. And again, of course, it depends on what's going on in your life. Like if you just got married, you just had kids, a newborn, et cetera, whatever it might be, just moved out of state, whatever it might be. But I personally believe that if you truly want someone in your life, especially if you value them as a friend, that you're going to make time at some point to be intentional with that friend. And I'm grateful I do have a couple of friends that, although we're in different stages of our lives, that they have made a point to check in with me. Months can go by, like a year could go by, but we just have that connection to where we can meet up like no time has passed. And we're just honest, and, you know, there's no tension or anything. We're just, it was just like we saw each other yesterday type of relationship. So just being able to be authentic, being able to trust them, being able to keep in touch in any way we can, and just having that genuine connection.
Yeah, I agree. And it made me think, like, when he talks about like how much time can pass, but when you connect, it feels like that the gap of time wasn't there. I do think, like, with friendships, like when you're searching for a romantic partner, there is that aspect of what connects you guys that you can't quite explain. Like, you just, you know, as I say, like, you just vibe with each other. Yeah. And it doesn't matter how long it's been. And for somebody else, if you spend that much time apart with them, like, the connection's going to dissolve because it's just not, it's not there. So I totally agree with what you said. So, you know, we've definitely, we're in our 30s, so we've learned a good bit. You know, this time that we've been alive is, you know, it's not that long compared to the grand scheme of things, but we've definitely had our journey with friendships so far. And when I think about, like, my earliest memory of having a good friend, like, my experience socially, I'd always been more of a loner, and even now, you know, still the case. And as I've gotten older, realizing, like, it's not because I'm not good at socializing with people, and it's not because I don't like socializing with people. I feel like that's a part of myself that I'm becoming more in tune with, is that even though people get on my nerves, I really do love people. You know, I can feel like I don't like people sometimes, but when I'm really getting along, it just, there's a sincere interaction with somebody. Like, I feel like that love in my heart from, you know, one person to another. But unfortunately, when I was younger, I just wasn't around as many people that I felt like I connected with. So, you know, I often, you know, I spent a lot of, you know, time to myself, even though, you know, going to school, you know, I have my cousins. So my earliest friendship was when, I think this started in elementary school. Yeah, I think so. Her name is Shantae. Oh, I don't know. Yes,
I have a Shantae in my previous
I didn't
childhood.
Yes, I don't know if she'll ever hear this, but if you do, hi Shantae. Yeah, it's been years since I've seen her, and I feel like I have a vague memory of, like, when she first moved in to our apartment complex, because that's where I grew up initially. This was back in Jersey, and I feel like I'm having a memory of, like, this day where me and a few of the other girls in my apartment complex, like, we were just playing outside together. Like, I know it's a real memory, and it was a nice day. And I'm thinking that may have been the first time, like, that I actually played with that, you know, friend, because this friendship went on into middle school. So yeah, not exactly sure about the first interaction, but what makes her my earliest memory of, like, this is a really good friend is just like you were saying earlier, like, I completely felt like I could be my authentic self with her, like who I was at that time, and same thing with who she was at that time. You know, we related on certain values, you know, as much as you can have values at, you know, elementary school, you know, age. We knew, like, there were some of, like, the social groups, like, with the other kids that were into doing stuff, or just, like, that we just didn't like, or, you know, he had some people like that were mean, and we knew we didn't, you know, like that, you know, that kind of energy. So we just felt like, so that's what, you know, an aspect of that made me feel like this is a really good friend. Like, I felt comfortable with her, like I could be myself, like she accepted me and I accepted her. I remember also, I don't know how old we were when this came out, but I distinctly remember, like, when the Cheetah Girls came out on Disney Channel, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember going over to her apartment. I think we were watching it. I think it was the premiere of it. And just stuff like that, like, just like a girl, moment. We're both older sisters. She has one younger sister. I have two. Our sense of humor, that felt very compatible. And I really knew that she cared about me. Like she genuinely cared about me. It wasn't like surface level and the same, from me to her. So really our friendship drifted apart when my family, moved down here to Georgia. But other than that, like my memory is that our friendship was going pretty strong, and I really valued that.
So what happened? Like what how did your friendship end?
Like when we moved down here, we still kept in touch, but over time, like I think we were also even like would send emails to each other. So in middle school, the phone that I had, it was very basic. It was not like the cell phones today. Like the main feature is, you can text, so you had cell phone, we would send emails, but just over time, like the course of life, you start to connect more with the people who are right where you are, and you're living states away. So, and we're not, old enough where we can come visit each other on our own. So just over time, the communication faded out. But even times, I know for my 16th birthday, we went back up to Jersey, my family, and we had a birthday party for me. And we saw each other. Yeah, we did. We saw each other that time too. And it felt like the same, like who I, was still at that time and who she was, like we connected still very well. Like no time had passed. Like you could tell the time had passed, but it was still felt very comfortable. So I don't remember like the last time that we saw each other. I just know the last time that it was, we were still... It still felt very familiar and still felt good. It's just, we're living apart now, and over time the communication just faded out. That's really what I attribute it to.
Yeah, and usually that I think is probably one of the top reasons that most friendships kind of fall out. It's due to physical distance if you're living in different states. Although I know that people, I think even my sister has, they have pen pals where you don't really need to even see each other. You just keep up with letters or emails, and you just talk for years. And maybe at one point you might meet up in person. But it's funny that you also have a Shantae in your childhood, because I also had a Shantae in my neighborhood. Shout out to Shantae. But we would basically... So let me start from the top. So basically, my mom had a daycare business in our house, and Shantae was one of the children that she would watch in our neighborhood, and we lived in the same neighborhood too. But I remember Shantae, me, and a few other girls, guys, children would always be out in the street playing kickball, and we would always be outside. Unlike children today in their technology. But as far as the earliest memory for me of having a good friend, it probably, does start from my mom's daycare business, because, I'm the oldest of three. So my quote unquote start of friendship was probably just connecting with my siblings. And then through my mom's daycare business that she had in the 90s, I started to curate friendships with the children that she watched. And over the years, those friendships obviously died out because I was a little bit older at the time, maybe 2 or 3 years older. So I started to go to school, and, so the friendships died out. And there is one friendship from that group that I'm trying to, see if we can resurrect the friendship, because we've been through seasons of our friendship. But I feel like for me, there isn't like one particular friend. I've gone through seasons and chapters of good friendships, from neighborhood friends to, I used to also dance. I danced from age 7 to 15, which has some very fond, good memories. And I remember making good friends from when I was in dance, and then elementary school to middle school. So I've had seasons in those different chapters of good friends where we were like always hanging out with each other. I know one of our mutual friends that we met, shout out to Ariel. that we both know. Well, I met Ariel in middle school, and then Eliora met her in high school.
It was actually also middle school, except in 8th grade, because apparently I guess she like for 8th grade she went to public school, because you all are in private school, you said?
Yeah, we were in private school.
Yeah. So funnily enough, I met her in 8th grade, and then met her again in college when I met you,
which was not intentional.
No,
I mean, I knew that I was going to college with Ariel, but I like Eliora and did not know that Ariel was going to that school.
Not at all. Like the last time we were in contact before college was 8th grade, so we both recognized each other when we saw each other.
Another, I think we talked about that on episode 1, basically. But if you want to go back to episode 1, we dove into the origin of me and Eliora's friendship and how we met and how we were college roommates and all that fun stuff. So if you want to go back and get to know more about how our friendship started. But I know that as far as like experiences of having good friendship, I know that I had like friendship bracelets, or we would always want to be matching, or I remember I was obsessed, me and Ariel were obsessed with like Limited 2, and
oh my goodness.
Whenever the magazine would come out, I remember like circling different clothes and pajamas I wanted, and we would ask my mom to take us to the mall. And I'll never forget this one experience. I don't know if Ariel remembers this, but there was this like pajama set that we both wanted. And I remember going to the store and they only had one set left.
Oh, snap.
So I, being the, I can be a little ish sometimes. But anyway, I immediately grabbed the set and she didn't get it. And she was mad.
My God.
But anyway, we moved on past that. But just having different memories with different people, and I do also remember just the heartache. The first experience of heartache with the friendship was probably in high school. I remember I befriended this one girl, and we were friends, I believe, from freshman year. Got a little bumpy in junior year, and then senior year, we pretty much weren't friends. But she was definitely one of those girls in high school that I felt was kind of boy crazy, like one of those girls that needed to have a boyfriend, couldn't be alone. And I just remember us being so close, like freshman to sophomore year, and then she started to get a little popular, and like I said, boy crazy. I remember, I think it was towards the end of junior year or senior year, she had a boyfriend, and whenever I came around them, like the boyfriend was always nice and, you know, acknowledged me and everything. But I'll never forget, I think it was at our high school graduation, and I went over to her just to say hello, and her boyfriend was there. And of course, again, he said hello and acknowledged me. And she just kind of looked at me like she barely even said hello. And I'll never forget like how she just shunned me like that. After our like 4 years of friendship through high school and all the memories and everything. And because she was just so, you know, indulged in her relationship, she just, you know, pushed me to the wayside.
Yeah.
And and I never saw her ever again.
Wow.
After that day.
Okay.
And that was the first like, man, like, wow, all that energy and time I put into a friendship, into a person, and they just, you know, throw me out like the trash. It was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Something I could relate to when I was in high school, because after like in general, I got along with people when I interacted with them, but I just didn't fit with a lot of people. So I'm trying to think, like, after like like, man, I'm gonna offend somebody, like, you don't remember, like, if I don't remember, oh no, how that relationship was. Like, you know, of course, like I said, I met Ariel in 8th grade, but like our closeness did not start until college, you know? So I had people who, you know, at the time growing up, you know, I would call a friend, but that example with Shantae it's very similar to the friendships that I have in my adult years, with the comfortability and like knowing each other with that authenticity. And so that's why I'm like, the relationships I had in between that long time ago till now, that I did at the time say friendships, I don't think it's not because they weren't friendships, but the level of comfortability that I felt with the people, it was not at the same level as that long time ago and what I have now. Mm-hmm. So even in high school, it was the same. I had two main friends. One of them, we're still like friends with each other on Facebook, and you still make comments and like post and still wish each other well in life, even post high school, getting more into our adult years. There were a few times that we've hung out and touched base, so that connection has still been good. But in high school there was also another friend, and I think it was something like she wanted to know if I'd sing at her church. Mm-hmm. And I remember I told her like maybe, or I didn't give like a definite yes or no, so, but apparently it seemed like she had the expectation that I was going to do it for some reason. And I definitely know I didn't give a short yes, because even though I really like to sing and I wanted to pursue that, I still had, insecurities about it. So, I wasn't that kid. Like, I knew I wanted to sing and I jumped on stage at every show and like just, mm-hmm. I wanted to build up the confidence. That was, my struggle. So anywho, basically from me, like not doing that, like that disagreement, she stopped talking to me.
Oh, wow.
And I thought it was just like, okay, she's just upset, but she like went on with it, like past whatever day it started. And I'm the type of person, like, if I care about you, mm-hmm. and you do something like that, I will try to communicate with you, even though I feel like this is wrong. Yeah. I'm gonna let you know that I feel like it's wrong, but I'm not gonna be reaching out to you too many times. It's gonna be very few attempts. Mm-hmm. And if that's basically, if this sounds bad, but like, if you want to end our friendship, a good way is for you to decide that you're gonna give me the silent treatment, and you will not hear from me again. Okay. So that's what ended up happening. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna reach out to you, friend. I remember being hurt by that, like, girl, like, what? And so I don't know what was going on with that, but it was, somebody who when I look back on it, I feel like I wanted the friendship more than she did. I think it was one of those situations. Yeah. When I look back on it, and because similarly, like, I'm like, well, we've been friends for this long. Like, why are you stop talking to me over that? Right. And I think when things like that happen, sometimes it's because you're finding that the person didn't feel the same way about you that mm-hmm. you felt about them. Yeah. And that really sucks.
People can be people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And we're all learning about how to communicate, because that's a big quality too mm-hmm. in friendships, is you have to learn how to communicate, just like you learn how to communicate with your romantic partners, which is something we're gonna get into, just touch on a little bit, how in general friendships aren't valued as much as your romantic partner or romantic mm-hmm. relationship. Mm-hmm.
I do want to interject, and this is thought just came to me post that time with that former friend I was talking about, because it's coming to my memory now. Like, we have touch base like since then, like years since, and so that is another aspect that happens. Like, sometimes things go sour with people, and then you touch base years later and you're older, and you just certain things you can let go and you just move on, but sometimes not like that.
Right, mm-hmm. Exactly. And I remember, like I said before, there's not like one friend I can pinpoint as far as my earliest memory of a good friendship, but I know in elementary school I had another quote unquote best friend, mm-hmm. and we were close. Like, I remember, like, I think I started at this school in 3rd grade, mm-hmm. And she was one of the popular girls, one of the popular kids, and we happened to connect really well. But she was kind of like, I don't want to say obsessive, but like, she was kind of like, this is my friend. Like, no one else can be her friend, or no one else can be like her best friend. And like, she was very like protective of me, like you know,
Okay.
and but we were really close, like hanging out after school, going over at her house, vice versa, everything. And we had other friends, of course, but like I just remember like she was very like, this is my best friend, not yours type of mentality. But you know, years later, we did happen to meet up again at a restaurant just to catch up, but it just wasn't the same closeness anymore.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting, like different depending on the season of friendship you're in with that person. Years later, you're just obviously a totally different person from elementary school,
Right.
but sometimes you can reconnect. Sometimes you do pick up that closeness again, depending on the person, but other times, you know, that friendship chemistry, compatibility is just not there anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yes.
At least, you know, like, okay, you know, the chapter when we were close, you know, was just a chapter.
Yeah.
And that's where it ended. But, you know, it's just going through the ebbs and flows of friendship. And
yeah, I agree.
meeting people halfway.
Right. And, you know, some people, because I've, you know, heard people just make comments like, and like people who are loners, you know, who consider themselves loners and feel like they've had a hard time fitting with people, just really downplay the importance of friendship. But I feel like everybody should have a friend. And I know there's the saying, like, if you have at least one good friend, like one genuine, like true blue, like that's a good friend, that's hard to find, you're doing great. And I agree. But I do think that, you know, we should all strive to have more than one friend. Because especially when things go sour, you know, you didn't put all your eggs in one basket, and you do not want to be like that.
Thanks for listening as we talk through this episode's topic. Even more than you listening in, we're excited to have you join our conversations through our segment, My 2 Cents, where you share your personal experience and insight or just what you love about the podcast.
Before new episodes, we'll ask for your submissions on our social media based on the topic. If you just want to give us good feedback about the podcast, send that our way anytime. Share your submissions by DMing us on Instagram or Facebook at BWCB Podcast, or email us at info.bwcbpodcast@gmail.com. We all love clothes that make us feel good because they look good on us. But it's even better finding clothes that look good on us and have bold statements to remind us who we are or playful words to make us laugh. Khalila's Corner, that's Khalila's with a Z, is an online shop for uniquely made t-shirts that inspire confidence and joy through creative words and designs. If you want t-shirts you'll love for your casual and fun looks, visit KalilasKO.com and follow at KalilasKO on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Friendships, like good friendships, they really enrich your life. They develop you into a better person in so many ways, like, you know, challenging, you know, parts of yourself that you really need to examine, exposing you to new experiences. You know, they have different backgrounds, different cultures from you. I know one of those things for me, like helping me to be more vulnerable, because I see like these are people like I can really trust. These are people I'm really compatible with and who I love and who love me. So I feel like a lot of things that we learn, a lot of I think, how am I trying to find my words? People would definitely say like their romantic relationships, you know, how those experiences have really refined them as a person and made them into a better person. And I think we forget that a lot if we are engaged properly with our friendships and it's reciprocal, that there are a lot of things that we can learn about ourselves, through our friendships. And it doesn't have to be, it's not until we get into a romantic relationship that's the time we start to confront those parts of ourselves that need to change, or start, caring about certain things in life that we need to care about. I think we miss that part of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree, for sure. As you get to know yourself as a person, you start to make friendships with people. And also sometimes making a friend is just, by nature, by your environment. For example,
Right.
When you are in school, by nature, you just make friends to make friends. Like you're not really looking for any expectations. You're just like, you want to play kickball? Sure. You want to go to lunch? Sure. And over time, as you get older as an adult, you start reflecting on, well, actually, I don't want a surface level friendship. I want something deeper. I want to be able to, conversate authentically with someone. I want someone to hang out with, someone that feels safe to me too as a friend, someone that I can reach out to outside of my family, especially if you're not close to your family or whatever the situation might be with your family. Having a friend to lean on is very, very valuable, and definitely needed.
Yeah, I agree. Like the friendships that we formed in college, like for me, that was the start of my journey that has been, still developing post-college, many years ago. That was the first stage of me encountering like good friendships, as I've said, in my adult years. And the common thread with all those friendships at the time was, our belief in the Most High, like our faith, all being Bible believing people. And the friends, speaking more personally, the friends that I have, one of the biggest ways they've enriched my life is in my relationship with the Most High. Their experiences, going through their ups and downs, trying to figure out life, and, walking through that time with them, more so figuratively, because some of us are, not living in the same place, but, seeing times in you all's life when you're going through a struggle, and then seeing you, come out of that, and just how your faith is playing out in the process of that. It's made me reflect back on my own. And then times when I'm going through things where I'm struggling with my faith, like things are dry, or I'm getting into, a sad place and I'm having a hard time, you all speak an encouragement to me, from the perspective of the faith that we have. And it's different. Like everybody's approach is different. You guys, praying for me, you guys checking in on me, like sharing scripture that I could talk to you guys about. We could just, talk about the word and our different ideas, especially ones that aren't, what's conventionally taught in church. Those conversations have definitely enriched my spiritual journey and given me things to think about. And like I mentioned earlier with vulnerability, I'm more so used to figuring things out on my own. I definitely think that's the influence of being, the oldest sibling. And then on top of that, like a lot of times leaning more towards, being a loner, and feeling like just from a young age, without even realizing it, that I am having to depend on myself. And I am thankful to the Most High. I do feel like he's given me a certain level of wisdom, to really be able to help myself. But in having good people in my life that have just, carried themselves in a way that, not perfect people, but people that I know are good people, and who have loved me, it's challenged that part of myself, like when I'm going through something, to be able to reach out to people, and to let them know, and to, feel like I could go more in depth about, what I'm feeling, when it's more negative. It even, seeming less, it's even less like what you're normally used to, seeing me as, like, being able to, I guess, figure things out, or having, a good head on my shoulders. Those are some things that are coming to mind that I really appreciate. Being able to, like have fun together. That's one of the things like I really appreciate about our friendship, that we can just go out and try any like new thing. Like we know how to create our own fun together.
Yeah.
I think that's important in friendship. Like if you can only have a good time hanging out, like when there's something that's like really stimulating going on, that's the only time that you really enjoy hanging out with these people. It's whatever external factors are going on, but it's not what you have between each other. I think, you know, that's something to question, because I feel like in good, healthy friendships, like you could just be, even if you're just at each other's place, you know, sitting with each other,
right.
You know how to create your own enjoyment.
And speaking of our adventures and having fun within our friendship, recently we tried indoor rock climbing.
We did,
which was a challenge. It made me feel old. Like I'm in my early 30s, but like my body felt like it's in its 50s.
Okay.
I'm looking at these little kids climb up the wall like Spider-Man, and I'm just like struggling to go halfway up the wall, out of breath and everything. But yeah, I would agree that if there's an element of fun in a friendship to where you don't have to be stimulated by a substance or whatever,
right?
That's definitely a sign of a good friendship. And we'll actually get into what we think are the signs that someone may be a good friend for you to interact with or build a friendship with. So one of the questions that we ask ourselves in what we think are the signs that someone may be a good friend is, are there differences between how we determine if someone may be a good friend for us now versus in the past? And I'm actually going through this now in my life with a certain friend, and we have a lot of history. But we never had like a actual falling out or anything. It's just one of those default things of friendship when you just drift apart because you're in different life stages, or you just haven't really connected in a long time. And one of the questions I asked myself was, when I confront this friend about our distance, like first, like would they be willing to listen to me? Would they be willing to be open-minded about my perspective and my side of things? And also, do I, want to invite this person again into my life as far as the type of friend that I remember them being when we were friends? Because like I said, friendships ebb and flow, people change, people grow. So you also can't judge how that friend was in the past. So that's a part of being open to the person they are now. And I'm in this season where I'm trying to be open towards rebuilding bridges with certain friends and trying not to judge them on the type of friend they were before, and trying to see if there's potential to build a new bridge between us, potential to build a new friendship between us. Because I was listening to a podcast on friendship the other day, and they were talking about like how we're so quick to cut off people because they immediately hurt us.
Right.
And a lot of that, once you go through self-growth, self-reflection, you also have to take account of what actions you might have done in the friendship. Because I think in every situation, especially when it's, in regards to someone you're dealing with, whether a friend, a family member, coworker, etc., you kind of sometimes have to assess like, okay, well, what did I bring to the table? Where could I have done better? Because I don't believe it's always on that other person. Like I feel like most of the times it's 50-50 or 80-20, whatever. But I am in a space to where I don't want any more bitterness in my relationships, and that's family and friends. I'm in a place to where I want to go down a journey of healing and start to exercise the things I've learned in therapy and exercise the things I've learned about myself. And also I want to exercise, most importantly, forgiveness. I want to, start to act on the things that, as a person of faith especially, that I should be actively doing in my life. And I think that most people, of course, depending on the case, because I know certain people out there can be doing some pretty ratchet, hostile stuff. But I think most people do deserve a second chance. And of course, through prayer, through meditation, through journaling, however you get clarity, through getting advice from those that you trust. I think that it is worth it to give a friendship a second, third, fourth shot if that other person is willing to put in the work too. Right. It's just like relationships, romantic relationships. You can't, there's work in friendships too. Right. You can't be the one doing all the work. That's one of my number one pet peeves about a friendship is one-sided friendships. That is something that's definitely a red flag to me about keeping a friend, or whether you think this friendship is worth it or not. If you find that you're doing most of the work in the friendship, I think it's time to evaluate, like, is this someone that I need to continue in my life? I think if you feel like it's worth it to have the conversation with the friend. And if they tell you, well, I'm sorry, I've just been so busy, then I think it's time, like, okay, well, be busy and you won't hear from me again. And I'll just wait for them to reach out and, like I said earlier, set expectations with that person and, maybe not give as much energy into that friendship. Like I've heard people say, whatever energy they're giving, I'll give back. So if they only want to text me once a month or once a year or whatever, then I'll give that same energy back. Unless you get to the point you're like, okay, like this is really not going anywhere. There's no value in this. We're literally just texting each other once a year or whatever, then, I'll probably just drop it off if I feel led to. But you really just have to assess how you're interacting with this person and how this person is interacting with you.
Yes. There's this video that we checked out. I think it's just called Friendtimacy. It's a TED Talk. And this woman, it's a great TED Talk. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for a good video to just give you some perspective about how to be a friend, or what you should expect in certain friendships. So it's called Friendtimacy, the 3 requirements of all healthy friendships. And the 3 things pointed out in the video are positivity, consistency, and vulnerability. And, like you're speaking to, Danny, friendships go through periods where people can have a lot going on. And there can be some far and few in between times when you're in contact with each other. And so what is it that makes a friendship be able to withstand that, and some friendships can't withstand that? I think it's feeling like confident, like where do you and this person stand as friends? If there have been some like underlying questions, maybe that haven't really been addressed about where we're at as friends, I'm going to take it differently when you have a lot going on. It's going to impact our friendship differently if you have a lot going on and you're not making the type of time that I would like to have, or that we should have as friends. And I think part of that too is like, if you're busy, like, acknowledging that and showing your friend that you are trying to make time. I think it's like if the person just keeps like, oh, I'm busy, just like if you're in a romantic relationship, the person just keeps telling you, oh, I'm busy. And like the time is like, continuing to pass, and you feel like, but you're not making an effort to try to make time for us in the midst of our busyness. Like, right. I could be more forgiving if like, okay, you're trying to make time, right? I'm trying to make time, but things fall through because of things that you have going on. And then also, there's the question of, are you communicating with your friends? Like, what's going on in your life? Like, what is this busyness that you're talking about? Like, okay, if I know you got, children and you're building up a business, and whatever
but
stuff.
Also, like, I mean, we all have different types of drama sometimes going on in our lives, whether that's family, work, etc. But I feel like sometimes you need a break from that drama. Like, everyone has their vice to get out of their drama. Unfortunately for some people, it could be like a substance or whatever. But most people like go to their friends when they need a break or they just want to relax or whatever it might be. So for me, it's also like, so why don't you think of me, when you need a break from whatever busyness is going on in your life? Like, why am I not a part of your top 5, like on MySpace?
Right.
Like your MySpace friends.
Do you mean like seeing like, it seems like when you do make time for people, I'm not among the top.
Like, that's a good observation too. Like, okay, so, but I see you out here on social media posting all these pictures with these people at these parties or whatever, it might be. And I'm not in those pictures.
Yeah.
So that's also an observation to me. Like, although you're mindful and patient with your friend when they are really going through it, but at the same time, like, it's kind of like, what is that saying? Like watch what I do, but don't say.
Oh, like, okay. The one I'm thinking about is like, let people do what they want to do so you can see what they'd rather do. That's the one that's coming to mind.
That was not the one I was thinking of, but that sounds more relatable what we're talking about. But I think it's like kind of like a parent to a kid, like don't do what you see me do, but do what I say.
Don't do as I do as I say.
Yeah. So like if a friend says, "Oh, I'm busy, I got X, Y, and Z," but yet you see them doing all this stuff for all these other friends, it's like, it's not really adding up. It's not matching up. So I think that's a quality to look for in a friendship. Like, if they're just not giving you the time of day and not being honest and not being open, then they're just being your friend out of guilt and not wanting to confront or whatever it might be. Then it's probably time to like create distance or let go of the friendship.
Yeah, it's seeing what decisions that person is making in regards to you. Like, we have to pay attention to that, because that's letting us know how the person feels about us. Even if it may not be at the forefront of their mind that that's what's happening, like, you're seeing it in their actions. So you have to make a decision, like, is this the type of friendship that I want to keep? Or, do I want to address this with this person? And when I address it, to them, how are they responding to it? Because that's also going to let you know, like, how they feel about your friendship. Like, if somebody cares about you and you bring something to them and that's not how they were perceiving things, it's at minimum at least going to bother them that something about what they're doing made you feel like you didn't care about them. And they're going to, if they want to keep you in their life, is be intentional about, okay, let me like be more mindful, because that is not how I feel.
Yeah.
Even if they disagree, like, you interpret their behavior like this, and like they're like, no, that's not the case. But the common ground is, I want to be very clear that I care about you. So like, like, we do that in romantic, relationships. Like, we will, I think it's, because when I wonder about that, like, why do we do that? Willing to do so much more for romantic relationships than we do with friendships. And I really think like the big difference is like the type of physical intimacy you have with a romantic partner that really attaches you to them, that you don't have with friendships. Because I'm thinking like the depths of like chance after chance, going above and beyond, that we will do for people that we won't do for people who have been friends or who say they've, been our friends, all these years. So, and, referring back to that video, when she was talking about the positivity point, it's been a minute actually since I watched the video, but it's a good one. she brought up like it's important that the positive experiences that you have with your friends have to outweigh the negative experiences.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If we're building up more negative experiences with each other, and, they're not being addressed, they're not being healed, they're not being fixed, that's going to break apart our friendship. Mm-hmm. And if one person cares more about trying to build up the positivity than the other person, that's not going to work. Mm-hmm. And consistency has to be the go-to that we're trying to aim for. Because I can be more forgiving when things become less consistent in our relationship, because I know that the normal pattern is, or the normal thing that we aim for is we try to be consistent. And I know it's really these external responsibilities and obligations, or, maybe personal interests that you want to give time to as well, that's getting in the way. And it's not really a reflection of your lack of desire towards me as a friend.
Right.
So yeah, I totally.
And the one point that she pointed out in this video, which we will link in the show notes, but she said that usually when we feel lonely, it's not that we need to add more people into the triangle, meaning friendship, positivity, consistency, and vulnerability in your triangle. It's that we need to move more people up the triangle. So she said, she's basically saying, like, sometimes we don't need to go out and find new people all the time. That's not always the solution. Sometimes we need to just kind of evaluate and reflect on the friendships that we have now in our triangle,
right? And
evaluate, okay, who can I go back to? Who can I reconnect with, and try and build up this triangle, try to build more positivity, consistency, or vulnerability, depending on the friendship. And if you're in that place to where, like, maybe you up and move to a totally different country, or you're in a job that really does not allow you to really cultivate friendships, that's a totally different scenario to where you might need to find other ways to connect with people. I know after the pandemic, especially, that people were like on virtual group chats or on apps like Meetup, and trying to just connect with people from all over the world. So that could be another way to really make new friendships. But sometimes you just need to kind of go back into your circle and be like, okay, how can I show up more for my friends, or what do I need to do to initiate the bridge to reconnect with this friend. And that's the other thing too, like sometimes you don't want to be the bigger person. Like sometimes you don't want to be like, why I gotta be the one to reach out to them when they should be reaching out to me. You don't want to always have to be the bigger person. But sometimes in order to get over the hump, in order to get over the woulda, shoulda, coulda, you might as well just go ahead and be the bigger person and reach out. But the difference is you don't always want to be the one making the initiation when you do reconnecting that friendship. Right. Because if it starts out being that same pattern of inconsistency, or that same pattern of, not positivity, whatever it is, after you've already made the initiation to reconnect, then you kind of know, like, okay, this is friendship cycle. It's just not changing. It's not really working for me. I don't feel valued as a friend. That's when you know for sure you can move on and let it go.
Yeah. Something that's been in my mind as we're talking, in regards to, like, how do we determine, that somebody's a good friend? We have to be clear about our values. Because that, like, because when we're clear about our values, then it also helps us to prioritize, like, what are, like, really deal breakers, for us, or what are things that we're willing to make exceptions for, what are things that not necessarily deal breakers, but they're pretty strong preferences, and what are things like, yeah, this is absolutely not. Because that's going to help you to navigate these types of when things become unsatisfying with friendships. like what, speaking to what you're saying, like, you know, feeling like you're always the one, you know, reaching out. Like, what is your tolerance level for that, you know, based on your values? Because sometimes you may go through a season like that where whatever's going on with your friend, they are more distracted, and you're finding that you're the one that's like, hey, can we make time for each other? Hey, can we make time for each other? But just as you said, okay, this can only go on but for so long before I'm expecting that there's going to be a break in me always doing it, that you're going to reciprocate and like, hey, you want to spend time together? You know, so you have to know what you value. And then also, I'm thinking back, you know, just earlier to the conversation, like, you know, what does it mean to be a friend? Values are also, you know, connected to that. I think part of friendship is you're building life together. Like, now we're using like these words, because I do think we are living in a time where people are starting. I do think the conversation is picking up about friendships more, but I think friendships, unfortunately, are still less valued, and we're willing to go less above and beyond than we will for romantic relationships. So we use these words now like community and tribe, and I think it's because we are understanding like part of like friendships outside of our family, relationships outside of our family. They're supposed to be a part of us building up our life, and we're a part of them building up their life, progressing their life. Like, it's not just about us, you know, hanging out and having a good time together. So, you know, again, that relates back to values, in addition to what is your standard as far as us, you know, our communication, to spend time with each other, to be able to go and hang out, or whether we're just at each other's place, you know, we make time that way. Also, like, you know, what are your values when it comes to family? Like, does that person share compatible values with you when it comes to family? Like, if you're a family oriented person, like, you're not related to this person, but, you know, when you get married and you have kids, is that a friend that can go through that season of life, you know, with you? Like, how do they value that? What is their values? Even, like, you know, finances can affect that. Like, if, you know, you're more financially responsible, or you're less, you put less rules for yourself when it comes to finances, like, that can affect the quality of your friendship as you're going through life experiences with each other. How does this person address when they do wrong? Like, you know, are they able to see themselves? You know, what is it like for them, like, to say that they're sorry? You know, do they have a hard time with that? Or do you have a hard time with that? So it's really important to as you're figuring out yourself with friendships, to examine what is it that you personally value, even when it comes to like wanting to make time. Like, what are things that you like to do to have fun versus what this person likes to do? Do you have a lot of the same interests, or even if they're different, can you get into each other's interests? Because if you can't, you know, that's going to kill the friendship as well, because all of these experiences with each other feed into, you know, like that video is referring to, building up positive experiences with each other, which motivates you to want to be more consistent, which eventually makes you feel comfortable to be more vulnerable.
Yeah, definitely. As we grow and get older and listen to resources like this, such as this video that talks about friendtimacy, and you recognize the qualities you need to look for in a friendship, it definitely makes it more worthwhile to fight for certain friendships, and it definitely makes it more clear on which friendships that you should probably go ahead and let go.
So when friendships are, when we can tell like our friendships are going through challenges, I do think, because you'd mentioned as well earlier, like, you know, sometimes, you know, we can make the decision to cut things off too quickly. I do think that's part of it, like assessing like how long have you been friends with this person? You know, how much have, you know, both of you invested in the friendship, and not being so quick when, you know, it comes to a place where you're not liking what's going on, to just feel like you need to to let the friendship go. I do think that it's important, to give respect to the friendship that is still there, to take time to think about it before acting on the emotions of the moment. And, taking time to assess the person as a whole, like who they've been to you throughout the time of your friendship, and who are they now. And, again, we're faith people. And so, the advice on our end would definitely be to also pray about it, to take it to the Most High, to get insight, to get clarity. Because if the person is now, like, things are happening in their life with them that is becoming less compatible with you, the question is, like, is this a temporary thing? Is this a season? Or is it something that's you feel like this is becoming more of who they are? This is the type of person they're going to stay, and I'm becoming this type of person, and that's not going to work out.
We appreciate everyone for sticking with us this episode. We not only want to give you great content to listen to, we also want you to join the conversation through our segment, My 2 Cents, where you let us in on your personal experience and insight, or just show love for the podcast.
Keep an eye out on our social media when we ask for your submissions before new episodes based on the topic. To give us good feedback about the podcast, you can share those messages anytime. Share your submissions by DMing us on Instagram or Facebook at BWCB Podcast, or email us at info.bwcbpodcast@gmail.com. We as women are amazing at coming up with innovative ideas to build impactful businesses and envisioning grand ways to elevate our life. But many of us get stuck trying to make our desires our reality and would really soar with attentive professional guidance. As the owner and coach of Soul Strategy Coaching, Brinia Bain loves helping women gain confidence and skills to go after their big dreams in life and business, with a special place in her heart for women of color. Her services include a 4 to 12-week program filled with confidence and self-love coaching, and of course, business strategy, content creation, and organic marketing for your needs. If you want a coach who feels like a friend and gives you honest feedback, connect with Brinia and learn more by following @Brinia Bain on Instagram and YouTube. If you assess, and that's, like how, as we said earlier, thinking about what decisions has the person made toward you, and the decisions, that they're making now that are affecting the friendship in a negative way. Is that because of, circumstances in their life, that are happening? Or are you finding that this is a reflection of how they feel about you? Or maybe it's not, necessarily specific to you, or it's just something about, like, their character that is changing, that is, no longer aligned with you, or maybe a part of their character that's becoming worse. So that's, like, when I think of, like, friendships that have gone through times of, it still happens, times of distance, that's how I assess it. Like, I would say I know it's circumstantial. And as my friends are able to, they reach out, they touch base. We still have a lot of shared values with each other. I still feel that level of authenticity with them, from myself, and also the authenticity of them, with me, that I can see, like, this is somebody that we can both continue to grow in life together. But when it comes time to where you're starting to assess, I think this is a friendship that I need to let go of, that's really hard. That can be very painful. Sometimes it may not be painful, depending on what's been going on. You're like, whew, yeah, this had to come to an end.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of times it's painful. And if you really had a friend that you cared about, and again, we don't talk about it as much the way that we talk about how the end of a romantic relationship can grieve us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you share a lot of memories with your friends, like a lot of milestones in life. These people are all up in your pictures, okay?
Right.
Like
Mm-hmm.
their faces are all up in, you know, memories, you know, that you think back on of your life. So it's not it's not a light thing when it has been a relationship that's beyond surface level.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned earlier, when you're evaluating whether to keep a friendship or whether to reconnect the friendship, to journal about it too. If you're one of those that like to just write out your feelings or just get some thoughts out. I know I did that with a friendship recently, where I just wrote to this person as if I would be talking to them in person. I decided to write out what I wanted to say, and I didn't plan on ever giving it to this person, but being able to write out my feelings helped me see, okay, this is how I've really been feeling about the friendship. This is how the downfall happened. And also, it's something that I can reflect on privately. You know, if we ever do reconnect, I can see, okay, this is where we kind of dropped off. This is how I was feeling at the time. So that if and when we do meet up, I can now communicate those things probably in a more like mature and obviously more kind. Not that I would be mean before, but like I have more of a mature mindset now of where I would like the friendship to go, if that other person is willing to go there with me, and not just have a meetup and complain about, you've been this to me, like just like going in on them. Because you don't want it to be like a reconnection and like there's tension in the meeting, or there's tension after you leave each other. You want there to be a sense of peace, a sense of you feeling heard after you have this meetup with your friend. So I would definitely just evaluate, you know, I'll also say take all the time you need in regards to reconnecting with friends too, because there's no timeline for that either. I know I've heard stories of people reconnecting after almost a decade, or stories of people, you know, reconnecting by chance. Like, for example, with our mutual friend Ariel, we all have, you know, by nature been apart after graduating college, and we all went into our separate lives. But just by randomly, we happened to see our friend at a random coffee shop in South Carolina, and you know that we were able to reconnect, you know, by the Most High, by nature. So sometimes life just hands you a good card to reconnect with someone, so it can be an easier vehicle to reconnect with that person. But yeah, and that trip that we went on, that was a girls trip with one of our friends, you know, who she's a mom of 3, and we have definitely seen the change, yes,
you know, in her life with her availability in being a mom, you know, her and her husband figuring out life and them both working. It had, like, you know, when we were in college, you know, we're single, we don't have no kids, you know, even when she, you know, she was in her relationship with her husband before they got married, you know, there's still a lot of time, and the communication, like we said, and the availability dwindled down a lot, but that friendship has stood the test of time because she has been intentional still in the midst of, you know, how life could get very chaotic, in reaching out to us, and letting us know what she's feeling, even like, you know, communicating when she feels like she wants to share, but just the stuff that she's just going through, like she just, you know, just is wanting to keep to herself, and she's just struggling with that. Like, she's communicating, and we know that we are still valued by her.
Yes.
And she is able to receive that she is still valued by us. So we know that it's circumstantial, you know, due to her going through this journey, you know, as a wife and a mother, and also, you know, figuring out, you know, other parts of herself as a human being. So, but that trip, you know, we were looking forward to that. You know, we did it because we, you know, talked about that. Like, you know, we need to get together. Like, that had been in our heart, like me and Danny's heart, like, you know, wanting to get out of town, and especially especially get some time with her, out of town, just to ourselves. And, in us being intentional about making that time, it ended up leading to us, running into, an old friend of ours, and, reconnecting in that way. So it opens up a lot of doors when we can at least be on the same page that we want to be in each other's lives. It can't be a one-sided type of thing.
Yeah. And I'll also, I think you said earlier that it's good to make more than one friend, because you never know if you're going to get to that point with that friend where something big might happen and you just totally cut each other off, or you drift apart, whatever it might be. So I will also say, although we're giving knowledge and experience and advice on how to reconnect with old friends if you feel led to, but also if you're in a place where you just want to make new friends, or you feel like you've tried to reconnect with your old friends and nothing really is coming out of it, this world is filled with people. And there is hope for you if you want to create a totally new social circle. That's possible too. Like, if just like with dating, if you want to start dating and put yourself out there, same thing with friendship. As you put yourself out there, as you put yourself in certain environments, certain resources to help you meet new people, it will all come together. And now with this new mindset of friendship, what you're looking for, what you're going to tolerate, not tolerate, just like in a dating relationship, you have standards in your mind of what type of person you want to date. Right. You now have standards in your mind of what type of friendship you're going to tolerate, give your energy into, et cetera, et cetera. But also, to start wrapping things up, I also found this article about the type of friends you might have in your social circle that can help you to kind of put people in their boxes as far as what to expect for that particular friend. But it's an article called The 13 Types of Friends You'll Have in Your Life from Best to Toxic, and we'll also link this in the show notes. But just to name a few, you'll have a best friend, a social friend, a low-dose friend, group friends, and situational friends, and work friends. So one of the ones that pointed out to me was a social friend, and what the article says is a social friend is someone who you spend time with regularly because they're fun to be around. They're someone you go to when you are in the mood to socialize, have a good time, and exercise that extroverted part of your personality. They may not necessarily be someone you would confide in or look for emotional support, but you generally enjoy their company and friendship. And this one stuck out to me because I think a lot of us view all of our friends collectively as like social friends. Like when we want to go out and have fun, we want to be social, you have a group of people in mind. But then there are some times when you probably had a bad week, or, you went through something emotionally draining, whatever it might be. So you have certain people in your mind that you can go to for that vulnerability part of friendship that we were talking about, and be able to be heard and be able to be seen. And also, if they're willing, they'll give you good advice. So that's something to think about if you have like a friend that's just mainly a social friend.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like, with friendships as well, just like with romantic relationships, I think it's really important to be okay being by yourself.
Yes.
So you make the right choices about the type of people that you want in your life, and not being the type of person like you can't be alone, because then you're just going to be, you're just going to be connecting with people and just to ward off that uncomfortable feeling like you don't like being to yourself. And it will cause a lot of relationships to be in your life that are not meaningful, that are not compatible with you. Opening the doors, to toxic people being in your life that, if you were able to slow down more because you feel more settled being to yourself, not that it's your favorite thing, but it's a comfort, it's an uncomfortability that you're willing to deal with. So you can filter in and filter out the type of people who are really your kind of people that you want to build with. I think that's really important to the process of choosing the right friends. Just like you don't want to be hasty to cut off friendships. I also don't think you should be hasty to jump into friendships, hasty to call people your friends. Like, it is okay to give time to vet people, to see how you feel about them. Even if they reach a point where they feel like they're ready to start a friendship with you, if you are not there, like you're genuinely not there, don't move forward with that, because it has to be a mutual thing.
Right.
Because you don't want later down the road, you look back on it and you're like, this was not a good friendship. And then also when friendships end, there's this video clip from The Real. It's old, and the talk show's not on anymore, but it was talking about like there should be like a certain level of respect for old friendships. So when friendships end, I think it's really important to still respect certain parts of the friendship. Like, for instance, personal things that they shared with you, that you know that they shared with you in confidence. I feel like if you care about somebody, when things end, even if it ended in a bad way, you're not just going to be like sharing stuff that does not relate, that is not relevant, to the whatever problem at hand caused the friendship to end. Because now you're just like slandering them and being messy. Like, it's not really about you wanting to just... if you feel like you need to vent, about the problem at hand, and it's just really about you trying to hurt the person. And that's not that's not the space that you want to come from. I think it's more, it can be more tempting to do that if things end badly, but especially when things end well, like still respect that. And when it comes to when there are problems in a friendship, I do think it's important to consider, like you touched on this, Danny, sometimes we do need to be comfortable talking things out. But sometimes when we recognize that it's us, like we're the problem, sometimes that's all that's needed for the problem to be resolved.
Yes,
like, you don't even have to go to the person about it. You realize, like, this is a me thing.
Yeah.
This is what's going on internally with me. I don't need to come to them and start like bringing them this unnecessary baggage or drama, because this is something I need to sort out within myself. And our friendship is able to carry on. So I really do think it's important to be able to discern that too when conflicts or challenges come up in our friendships.
Right. And also looking at the definition of a best friend from this article, talking about the 13 types of friends you can have. A best friend is someone whose friendship we consider the strongest, most intimate, or most important to us among all other types of friends. The exact nature of that friendship might vary from person to person. For some, a best friend might be someone you talk with constantly and love spending time with the most out of anyone else, while for some people, a best friend is less about how much time you spend together and more about the way you're able to trust, rely on, and support each other when it matters. Either way, that the point is that this friend stands out to you as someone you consider particularly close to and important to you. So I can definitely say that about our friendship, Eliora, that you're like one of my best friends, like one that I can definitely depend on fully.
Yes.
And like I said earlier, if you want to go back to episode 1 to talk about to hear us talk about the origin of our friendship and how it got started, and hear us just basically say love letters to each other, then you can go back and listen to that episode.
I feel the same. Yeah, I definitely feel the same about our friendship. It's just it's natural, and it doesn't mean that it's. When I say natural, it doesn't mean that a friendship will never have challenges, but the key thing is authenticity. I really like guideline of, are we having more positive than negative experiences with each other? What is consistency looking like? What is vulnerability looking like, to determine where does our friendship stand? Where is it really going? And I do think it's important to branch out, to be willing to meet different types of people than what you're used to, than what you naturally gravitate to. Because again, from my perspective, part of being a friend is this is a person I can build life with. And I can't just build life like with just me and my own knowledge and only things that I know and experience, only things that fit within the parameters of my world. I need other people to who are different from me to give me perspective, give me insight. And I don't, and again, like, don't force it. You know, if you don't mesh with somebody, just don't mesh, and that's okay. But just be open, you know, to that. Be intentional about reaching out to people. And there's this video that I watched. There's this YouTube channel called The School of Life. And there's a video that they did talking about like how to stop worrying about if they like you. And they said some things that I felt were like, you know, pretty simple but profound at the same time. Like one of the things said was, you know, when we meet people and we're wondering if they like us, we forget that it's not just about like, well, I'm just gonna be me. I'm just gonna be, and they gotta decide if they like me or not. And if they like me, okay, great. If they don't, then, you know, that's fine. No, a lot of times, what the video said, what helps us decide what someone means to us is our sense of what we mean to them. And a lot of times, you know, either side is waiting to see, like, does this person, you know, value me in this way? Because if I'm not getting that, I'm not going to show that, you know, of myself, because we're uncomfortable with vulnerability, you know, starting off, because we don't know this person. So, you know, somebody has to be willing to take the risk that to show like, hey, I really like you. Right. And I value whatever I'm seeing so far of you. And, you know, I would like to get to know you more. So especially when you're trying to build a friendship, something new, and even like with existing friendships, when there's a lull, like instead of sitting there like, well, she hasn't reached out to me and she doesn't care about me, and sometimes you don't know what's going on with the person, so you reach out like, hey, and you make it known to them like, I kind of feel like you just kind of like, yeah, like, are we good? Right. And you may find out like, you're for like, girl, I do like what I tell, and they start telling you all the stuff that's going on. They're like, oh, okay. And they make it clear, like, no, this is absolutely not how I feel about you. This is me. I definitely value, because you took the risk to show them like, hey, I still care about you. And I'm kind of feeling like I'm not getting that back from you. So it's not just us being who we are, and like that alone is what's going to make the person decide whether or not they like us. We have to be willing to engage with people, to show interest, to help them decide, you know, what do they feel about us as a new person, you know, becoming friends, or, you know, with existing friends, how we want to continue on with our relationship.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And that's a good point and a good note. Like, and again, it all goes back to how we operate in our romantic relationships, because, and people have also said, you know, if a person is good for you also after you become friends, because a lot of people are quick to jump into relationships, quick to label themselves as boyfriend, girlfriend, and then after. And I know from experience, it's hard to wait to, but it's, if you take the same notes of, you know, what you look for in a friendship and copy those into what you want in a dating relationship, you can find that you're building a pretty valuable relationship, friendship. So it's basically just the root of what we're saying is like, sometimes it's not just them. Sometimes it can be you. And also, like in every relationship, it's 50-50. Like, it depends on what that person is bringing and what are you bringing. And if you're bringing everything that you possibly could, then that's when you have to go back to the Friendtimacy triangle that we talked about earlier: friendship, consistency, and vulnerability, and evaluate how much you're bringing in and how much that person is bringing in into that Friendtimacy triangle. Right. And go back and see if it's worth it to work on. Right. But
and to work on it, just keep it in mind, you have to have honesty and accountability. If you first and foremost have to check yourself. Are you willing to be honest on your end about, you know, how you could have contributed to the problems? Are you willing to be honest about how you feel about the problem? Like, at the point that you're deciding you're going to come and address it, you might as well like lay the cards on the table, like, you know, this is how I feel. And are you willing to be accountable? And if you're holding yourself to that standard, like, I know that's one of my values. Like, that's what I expect. If, you know, we're addressing a problem, I'm coming to it being open to honesty and accountability, and I'm expecting the same from you. And if I come to you with an issue that's going on with our friendship, and I see that you are not willing to be honest, you are not willing to be accountability, like those are deal breakers for me, like being manipulative, being
or
shady.
Another quality of a friendship that's probably meant to be let go is someone that likes to do a lot of trauma dumping on you. Or a lot of toxicity when you're around them. It's just always negative, or they never make you feel good about yourself, or make some type of off the cuff comment that doesn't make you feel good about yourself. That's definitely red flags of a friendship that is probably not worth it.
Yes.
And that person probably has a lot of internal reflection healing to do. Because that's, to me, like someone that's just literally dumping all their negativity on you.
Yes.
Like they say, misery loves company.
If somebody is not happy within themselves, it is going to be hard for them to be a good friend to you. And we go through stuff, so I'm not saying, we also have to have grace. People go through things, but you have to, again, like that goes back to your values, and that helps you to set like your standards and your boundaries. If you have a lot of things going on in yourself, it is becoming a continuous thing, like in whatever ways you are making decisions that are very damaging to our relationship, and even things that seem small, like making certain comments that make the person feel less about themselves, or make them question your character towards them. Those are things that chip away at a friendship, which cannot be there. So you just want to be able to, you want to know that you're dealing with somebody that the standard of how they normally are is a genuine and sincere person, is a person who cares about you, a person who, like I was saying with the example of when friendships end, and how, you treat that person afterward, like how you talk about that person afterward. I'm not, I'm not the type of person, like, I don't believe like, you should, try to make things sound nice that are not. But I also feel like there's a fine line between like being honest about a situation to crossing a line like where you're being unnecessarily disrespectful or slanderous. I think that may be the word to use, or just going in about them beyond what is reasonable. But even within a friendship, if you got friends that are gossiping about you, friends that are not respecting your personal business, like if you have communicated, or sometimes if you've communicated, that's definitely a red flag, and the person is not, respecting how you want that information to be carried. Or even like sometimes people shouldn't always have to say things to you. If you are a thoughtful person, if you're a loving person, certain things are just natural. You just know certain information, like, okay, this person shared this with me, I'm not going to go share this with, everybody or these certain types of people. Those are all the things that build trust, that make you feel comfortable being vulnerable. If you can't be vulnerable, if you can't trust that person, that's going to tear down a relationship. It's a burden onto you. It's a heavy feeling, and you will see the difference when you let go of people in your life that you can't trust. And lastly, a lot of things I'm talking about are character things. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes you just have different personalities. Sometimes you just have different interests, and that is okay. So, it's not really a character flaw about the person. It's just things that you're into, that they're not, ways that they are that you're not. And sometimes, and this goes into talking about discernment, just like we mentioned earlier, sometimes there's what you can't put into words that makes you click with another person. Sometimes you start to know that it's time to end a friendship, release a friendship, and you may not always have the language to communicate why. Still pay attention to that. Or you may not be able to communicate as in depth as Danny shared earlier, which I think is a great idea, to handle it with clarity and maturity. That's okay too. Sometimes, we get the sense to do things, and it's later on that we get more clarity about why. So I did want to just note that as well.
Yeah, those are all really, really good points. But I guess to leave you guys on a good note, basically, I think the root of creating any relationship, but in regards to friendship, is also being content with who you are, and that comes with growth, experience, living life, etc. But also, don't be so quick to let people go either. Like, there might be a chance to revive the relationship. And after you do your analysis, evaluation, and if you're a person of faith, pray about it, journal about it, and you give it, your last hurrah, your last, like, all right, this is my last chance to connect with this person. There is a sense of peace that can come through once like, I've literally done everything I possibly could have. I've confronted, I've communicated, and this person is not really giving me back the type of expectation I had in mind, or they haven't communicated, whatever it might be. Then at least like, I can be content moving on, as a whole peaceful person, and can close that chapter with that person and that friendship and move forward.
Yes, I agree. And I think another gem to share with you guys is, I think flexibility is important. Flexibility and openness in regards to, it goes from being able to start new friendships, going through the ebbs and flows of existing friendships. And then even when friendships end, sometimes people come back into your life. And just like you were, speaking to earlier, being open to just because, maybe that person was a certain way, or you were a certain way at one point and the friendship ended, that doesn't mean like later down the road that the door can't be opened again. That goes into branching out outside of the people that you're normally used to gravitating to, and being willing to embrace new types of people in your life. I believe the journey of friendship will be better. It's still going to have bumps in the roads, and it will be more rich when you are willing to be more open and flexible throughout the different experiences that happen.
Right. And I also hope that you leave this episode, just evaluating your friendships, and also check in on your friends. Especially, I keep referencing the pandemic. It shattered some people, but also it was good for some people. But just check in on your friends, even if saying like, hey, how are you doing? Or what's a friendship that's local? Ask them if they want to go meet at the coffee shop. Just having that little interaction really means a lot to friends, like knowing that you were thinking about them, or on your mind. Just the little things matter. And just continue to be you, be honest, don't be afraid to be vulnerable with your friends or the ones that you trust, and continue to also growing yourself, but also growing your social circles as well. And over time, you learn to be a better communicator with your friends. You learn to be a better friend in general to them. And then you also have to, I guess, be flexible in dealing with certain type of friends. Like I said before, there are different types of friends. Certain people you got to put in boxes. Certain people you got to have certain expectations with. So it's not always like you or them. Sometimes, like you said, it's just the personality doesn't click, or we're just not that type of friendship that's going to go deep like that. Sometimes we're just a good time social friend. And that's okay too.
So it's okay that every friend doesn't meet the same need. It just should be the needs that they're meeting. Are meaningful, and you feel like you're able to build life with these people. So yes, as you know already, that Danny and I, the co-host of this podcast, and we're also dear friends. But we have other friends outside of each other, and if you all listen to this, we hope you will to support us.
If you're real friends. I'm just kidding.
But you know who you are. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you for just the things that you have contributed to our lives, the advice that you've given us, the times that you have prayed for us, just the good times that we shared together. Even old friends that we may have drifted apart from. We appreciate those times as well. So value friendships, you all. It's okay to go through a lonely season or a season where it's just you. but do not go through life without being intentional about friendships. They really matter a lot. So that's we hope that you receive that from this episode.
And just like in Toy Story, you have a friend in me.
Oh, okay.
Or a friend in us, because, co-host 2 people. But anyway.
We're millennials, and we have also quirky aspects to us. So listen, if you're not cool enough to hang with us when we make our references, then that's on you.
Okay. Get with it. Anyway,
yes.
We hope you guys enjoyed this episode and got a lot of good gems and just different lessons from our experiences of friendship and how to cultivate adult friendships, because it's totally different than when you make friendships as a kid. But we definitely want to hear from you too, like any feedback about experiences you've had in your own friendships.
Yes.
This is meant to be a community-based podcast. Although we're the leaders of this podcast, we want to invite your voices and opinions in, but please be kind and please be respectful.
Are you getting blocked?
You're getting
deleted.
cut off. But anyway, we look forward to meeting you guys again for our next episode, which I believe will go into singlehood and the game of dating.
Yes.
So get ready for that one. But anyway, we are so glad that you guys took the time to listen to this episode. We really, really appreciate your support. Like, subscribe, comment, all the things in order to keep this train going. And also check us out on social media at I can never remember the handle.
BWCB podcast.
Yes, what she said.
Yes.
But all right, guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you next time here at the Best We Can Be podcast.
Bye.
Bye-bye.